Hey, 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 what's been good about your day? It's Marty Newport, time for story time. We are going to finish up Heaven Changes Everything this week, so I hope you've enjoyed it. It's such an inspiration. I just love this story on how they work to kind of overcome the challenges of everyday life is what we all do. So pertains to my life for sure, hopefully for yours also. We are on chapter 37, Seeing the Face of Jesus. Won't that be an awesome day? Of the literally dozens of portraits of Jesus we'd seen since 2003, Colton had still never seen one he thought was right. Well, I thought, may as well see what he thinks of Akian's attempt. I got up from the desk and hollered up the stairs for Colton to come down to the basement. Take a look at this, I said, nodding toward the computer monitor. What's wrong with this one? He turned to the screen and for a long moment said, nothing. Colton? But he just stood there studying. I couldn't read his expression. What's wrong with this one, Colton? I said again. Utter silence. I nudged him in the arm. Colton, my 7-year-old turned to look at me and said, Dad, that one's right. So Todd talks about this in this chapter. It's hard to describe the feelings I had that day when, after 3 years of showing Colton pictures of Jesus and having him reject them, a picture painted by a little girl we'd never met connected with him so strongly, without question, that it stopped him in his tracks. A friend had sent me in a 3-minute CNN clip that told the story of a girl in Idaho, 12 years old at the time of the report, who had started having visions of heaven at age 4. Her name is Akian Kramarik. She's Lithuanian American, and her description of heaven shared in the CNN 2006 report included references to out-of-this-world colors and Jesus' extraordinary, beautiful eyes. The real amazing thing to me, at least, was that at that time was Akian's parents were atheists, and God was never mentioned in their home. The family didn't watch television. Akian was homeschooled, yet she repeated her vivid descriptions of heaven so many times, first in words and then in paintings, that her mother, knowing Akian couldn't have heard or seen these things anywhere else, believed she was spiritually awakened. This time God wasn't speaking to the pastor's kid. He was speaking to the child of a non-believing family. The CNN report included all of Akian's beautifully detailed paintings, including a close-up of her portrait of Christ. I paused the video and called Colton to come and see it, and at the sight of it, stopped him cold. He was 6 going on 7, but at the time he saw Akian's picture of Jesus. He'd rejected so many other pictures depicting how artists had imagined Christ-likeness that I expected him to discount this one too. But when I showed him the picture, he saw those striking, unforgettable eyes looking out at him again. We got Akian and her parents' permission to reproduce her picture titled Prince of Peace, the Resurrection, in Heaven is for Real. The response has been almost beyond comprehension. We've heard from parents who've told us that their children who have recovered from some kind of life-threatening experience or had seen visions and had begun telling their story similar to Colton's. Typically, the parents had read Heaven is for Real, and they'd opened it to show Akian's painting to their children. That's him, described to the children. That's Jesus. That's the one I saw in heaven. A mom in North Platte told us her son Jeremiah had eye surgery the day he was turning 4. When the time came for them to take him back to surgery, he got scared. His mom Barb prayed with him and asked God to send his angels to watch over Jeremiah and keep him safe. When her son woke up from the operation, Barb asked if he had seen any of the angels during the surgery. Jeremiah told her, "No, I just see Jesus. He holded my hands and when the doctor fixed my eyes." So sweet. At the time, Barb had never heard of Colton Burpo or the story of his trip to heaven and back. But 18 months later, she was reading Heaven is for Real, and without telling Jeremiah anything about the book, she showed him Akian's picture of Jesus and asked if he knew who it was. Jeremiah replied matter-of-factly, "Yeah, that's Jesus. That's the one who holds my hands during doctor fix my eyes." It's been astonishing how many confirmations we've gotten that the man Colton identifies as Jesus, the man Akian saw from heaven and painted so beautifully, is the same man dozens of others have said they saw during similar experiences. And not just kids, but adults too. But because of their innocence, it's the kids' confirmations that seem to so powerful. That's the genuine innocence I saw in Colton's face as he told me about his visit to heaven. In the years since, I tried to absorb all he had told me about the visit and tried to imagine what he saw. Jesus' beard, his pretty eyes, the markers on his hands and feet. But nothing prepared me for the wow moment when he saw Akian's painting and I saw him recognize that familiar face. Suddenly, everything Colton had told me seemed to come into clear focus. It all made sense. Today, I want to assure you, this picture from Akian is for real, just like heaven is for real and God is for real. And I believe, based on the confirmations I've received, that although the picture was painted by a young child, it's pretty close to being accurate. People ask me today, are you convinced that picture is really what Jesus looks like? In response, I ask them, how much evidence do you need? How much does it take for God to convince you that something is right? For me, after millions of copies of Heaven is for Real has been sold around the world, after hundreds of testimonies shared in person or by letter or email, and by living with a boy who's a stickler for details, yes, I'm convinced. I have a copy of the picture hanging in my office, and I'm looking at it now. I believe I'm seeing the one who held my son on his lap in heaven. So go to artsoulworks.com, and that's A-R-T, art in soul, S-O-U-L, works, W-R-K-S.com, to see Prince of Peace, the Resurrection, Akian's portrait of Jesus. This chapter leaves with 1 Corinthians 13:12. For now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face, now I know in part, but then I shall know, even as also I am known. Chapter 38 is called A Family Affair. Cassie, meanwhile, and the long-suffering older sister, this was demonstrated perfectly when we were all trying to think up a good title for this book. I suggested Heaven by 4. Sonja suggested Heaven according to Colton. Cassie suggested He's back, but he's no angel. Like a true sister, huh? Sonja says, we've been asked many times since Heaven is for Real was published how we keep our family life normal. They want to know if Cassie and Colby are jealous of the attention heaped on Colton since his story has spread around the world. We tell them that Colton may get most of the attention when we're doing an interview or appearing in a speaking engagement somewhere, but when he's home with his family, he gets treated just like his siblings. Big sister Cassie is a hawk about that. Not that Cassie has ever shown any jealousy about the attention focused on Colton, but she keeps Todd and me on our toes when it comes to making sure her younger brothers are held to the same expectations and rules we set for her when she was at their age. Todd and I understand. We're firstborn kids ourselves, and we know there's a tendency to baby the baby in a family. We work hard to be consistent in our parenting so that all 3 kids are treated the same. We knew Cassie would be watching carefully when Colton turned 10 to see if we instituted the kids do their own laundry rule. And we did. In a few years, she'll no doubt want to know that we enforce the same rules about dating and driving with the boys that we've established for her as she enters those years now. In the Burpo household, there's a set of rules for everyone, and we do our best to enforce them equally. Yes, Colton may get to miss a little more school than the other 2 due to speaking engagements, but we work our tails off to arrange things so that we can give extra attention to the other 2 kids, one-on-one, when we get back from a trip. When we're on the road as a family, it may be Colton who's on stage speaking and singing Amazing Grace, but everyone has a job. Colby gets to come on stage and show audiences, this is what Colton looked like when he visited heaven. Then he works at his other job, handing our Heaven is for Real bracelets. Cassie's job is one she asked for. Like most public speakers, we have a merchandise table where our books are sold when we're speaking somewhere. Cassie was interested in that and enjoyed working the table. In fact, now she runs the table when she travels with us. It's a big job for a 15-year-old, but she handles it like a pro. One way I spend special time with my kids is to volunteer to be a class sponsor or to help chaperone school trips. Recently, I spent 4 days accompanying Cassie and 22 other students to the state conference of the Future Business Leaders of America in Lincoln. It meant a lot to Cassie that I took time off work and made that trip with her. How do I know? She told me so, both before and after the trip, even though she had also told me she didn't want to ride in my car for the trip to Lincoln. It turned out that the sophomores were assigned to me, so she rode in the Burpo bus anyway, and all turned out fine. I loved seeing Cassie interact with her friends and was proud for her handling the pressure of competition so coolly. She didn't place in any of her events, and she was gracious about losing, which made me just as proud of her as if she had won. I had just returned from a speaking trip to Florida the day before we left for the FBLA trip, and I had to rearrange my work schedule at the real estate office where I work. Cassie recognized what I had done so that I could go with her and her classmates on the trip. So when it was over and she told me, "Thanks, Mom," I knew she really meant it. I like being with our kids and their friends. I try to be fun with. But Cassie told me she was glad I went with them. She said that the other chaperones were calm and nice. I said, "So I'm the crazy one?" She said, "Yeah, basically." We encourage our kids to invite their friends to our house to hang out or spend the night. I won't deny that it's a great way to be a fly on the wall and find out what's on their minds and what's going on in their lives. Todd and I are like most parents we know. We're doing the best we can to give our kids a solid foundation of love and direction while sharing our faith with them. Todd takes over in this part and he says, "Every time I come into my office, I see a reminder that helps me keep in focus my responsibilities as a parent and pastor. Written in pencil and careful fifth grader handwriting, it's a framed essay Cassie wrote when she was 10 years old. Here's what it says, misspelling and all. My Dad is a Hero by Cassie Burpo. My dad, Todd Burpo, is a hero. He's a firefighter, pastor, and more. My dad is willing to help, caring about others, and a great person. My dad is there when I need help and when others need help too. He loves me a lot. My dad, being a firefighter, can be called any time about a fire. My dad is a volunteer, so he doesn't get paid at all. He will go into a fire, risk his life to save a person or an animal in the fire. My dad and the other firefighters will put out a fire when needed. I'm scared when my dad goes into a fire. He always comes back. My dad is a pastor. He preaches about every Saturday night and Sunday morning. When there is something needed done at the church, he'll do it. He is dedicated to being a pastor. It's true that Cassie, the big sister, is still making sure the house rules she grew up with are consistently enforced today for her two brothers. But her essay reminds me that she and her brothers, and a lot of other people too, are watching me and counting on me. And it provides us a daily reminder that even though she's about to turn 16, she still needs a hero. And that hero needs to be her dad. So every day, amid all the other things I do and duties I fulfill, I want to make sure I can answer yes to the question I ask myself. Does Cassie know I still love her? Do I still make time for her? Set the right example for her? Can she look at me and be proud? And one day, will she look for a man who might have some of the same qualities as her hero dad to be her husband? Even though I may be on the road, traveling a lot with Colton these days, as I write this, I'm getting ready to pick up our jet skis from the shop and looking forward to the weekend when I can spend some time zipping around with the lake with my daughter. From the outside looking in, people seeing our family might assume Colton gets all the attention, but that's just not true. The real truth is all three of our kids are constantly watching Sonja and me for reassurance that we're parenting all of them consistently, and also to see that we're being consistent in the way we live our lives, both inside our home and out in the world. Cassie's essay is my daily reminder of that. When I walk into my office and see it there in the frame, I ask God to help me to be Cassie and her brothers. I ask God to help me be to Cassie and her brothers the kind of godly dad he is to me, and to be the hero to Cassie that she thinks I am. One of the biggest principles of healthy parenting is consistency. Would your household pass as a consistency checkup? If you need to make improvements, God will help. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not turn from it." I'm excited about the next few chapters, and we will finish this up this week. Have a great day.